Hello, you're welcome to another episode of Law, Lifestyle and the Basics. My name is Temitope Olasmono. I'm a lawyer and civics educator. I like to tell people about their rights, and of course, rights will come with obligation. For those of you who have watched Spider Man, I think it was said by Peter Parker's uncle that with great power comes great responsibility. So you can have rights without having obligations of some sort. So today, I might have to rant a little because I'm passionate about it. And law lifestyle and the basics. Why law? Why lifestyle? Is because I know it doesn't suffice to just tell people about the law. It can be very boring. We have books and volumes of books, on very many legal topics, and it could look really scary and want to put you off. If you walked into a law library, you would understand what I mean. The books are endless. You have law reports upon law reports, and so the law might seem distant. But you know that maybe one day I'm going to on this vlog, I'm going to read a law report so that we'll not just be so scared of law. I'm just trying to bring it down home that law really is about you. When you take a matter to court, for example, and the judge is going to come to his decision, he refers to stories in quotes. They're called precedents, judicial precedents, where previous judges, higher courts have decided what should go. So just like we have in our family, for example, you're the last born and you're female, and you probably are all female in your house, and your father, during the marriage of the first girl child, he made some requirements for the bride price list. He can always refer to that list, when you being the last one want to get married. So it's practical living. I really just wanted to state that law is practical living. So I just hope that you're not aloof. I hope that you're actually drawn in to know that law is actually about your protection, and it's not just something that keeps you on the check alone. It's about your protection, and it's about you enjoying social interaction as you do. That was the essence of law from the social contract theory. Okay, man in his British state, could do as he pleased according to the theories of evolution about and all of that. You know, in early years before formal education, people could just act the way they wanted to act, but they had to be a social contract theory that if we're going to be living, for example, sometimes when you buy a house in an estate, even though it's your money, even though it's your piece of land, even though it's your house and all the square meters thereupon, you are bound by certain laws in that estate. For example, they can decide that there will be no public vehicles in that estate, just private vehicles. They can decide there will be stickers for residents of that estate. Yes, it's your money, it's your house, but there are rules and regulations. It's a social contractory. You might own one piece of land, but you don't own the earth in its entirety. So today, we're going to be talking about some of these things. So while I was in uni, I believe it was my 500 level. Yes, of course, law is a course you study for 5 years. I went to the University of Benin, greatest university. So I went to the University of Benin, and I want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to one, actually my favorite lecturer in the Faculty of Law, Mrs. Stewart. She taught us environmental law. She was just a breath of fresh air. And I just all of a sudden go home and told my mom and my brother. I remember we were just in, and I said I want to be an environmental lawyer. In fact, on my book, one of my books, my first book, the compilation of my book, it has a many short stories, and one of them is a wet Hamatan. It was about environmental law, and she really had an impact on me. That's my lecturer, Mrs. Stewart. So I was telling my mom and my brother when I was in uni that I like to be an environmental lawyer. I was getting familiarized with the Ogoni stories, the Ogoni communities, the pollution, and I really just wanted to protect. I believe that God made me to be altruistic in nature by His grace, to want to as they say, we were not meant to live for self, to live for others. That's why God put you here on the surface of the earth. So I really wanted to study environmental law. So you must forgive me. So besides the fact that I'm passionate about the environment, I must confess that I have people have their phobias, but my only phobia, my only phobia is I have just two fears in this life: the fear of God and the fear of germs. Mesophobia. I tell you why. I'm giving you a step. I'm building the foundation as to what I'm going to talk about. So you might see a bit of my humanity and my frailty and my fallibility in all my discussions, but I pray by the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit of God, I'll be properly guided. So I am misophobic in nature. I have a serious dread for germs. I'm not perfect. Doesn't mean what they call them. Doesn't mean I'm extra. Extra. In Yoruba they call it afiju. Doesn't mean I'm what's the word? Very picky. Doesn't mean I'm picky, but I just have a fear of germs. It's just something. People have fear of different things. It took me a long time. This is law, lifestyle, and basics. So this is lifestyle. So getting used to the lifestyle part before we now come to the law here. So I used to be afraid of emptying the trash can for a very long time, and when I got back from youth service for almost a whole year, I couldn't touch my wardrobe because I couldn't. I just couldn't. Silly, but I couldn't. So where am I going with this? So you now imagine when I see a lot of waste in Nigeria. So this is not even about me. This is just about what's right. So it got so bad that, and in fact, maybe I shouldn't have given the foundation of my misophobia, because besides misophobia, this is a personal matter. This is a public matter. So maybe let's just take it as me just giving gist about myself. But this issue I'm going to talk about: environmental protection, trespass, nuisance. Now we're getting to law. So you understand, since I've talked about waste, so when I'm talking about nuisance and trespass, you can begin to understand these things, because I've talked about waste, so it becomes more real for us to understand. So environmental protection, I've talked about the Ogoni communities. If you do not know anything about the Ogoni communities, they're a community in the southern part of Nigeria where there was oil pollution by oil producing companies. It's an oil producing state, and they were generating oil, but there were oil companies that just, and their livelihood used to be fishing, and those lands, those rivers got so polluted, so polluted. Like the rivers, they couldn't fish. Everything, the toxins and everything just really affected the animals. So, and the normal local communities, they might gather some certain leaders and all of that to give them maybe just poultry sums, for compensation and everything. But it didn't just cut it. It's going to take many years. You can look up Ogoni land pollution. It's going to take so many years to clean up. And one of the things I was taught in environmental law is sustainable development. If I use a piece of glass cup, it must be so well kept that generations, I'm just using glass cup because generations to come, we met the earth, the way we met the earth, we're ended. It's a relay race. We met the earth. If the users of the earth prior to us, our grandparents, our great grandparents, made the earth so terrible, we'll be having health issues right now. Yes, we're talking about what we're talking about. We're talking about the depletion, global warming and everything. These are years and years. Some people don't believe in global warming. Some people, I'm spiritual, quite alright, but I do know that it's not only God that rules in the affairs of men. God rules in the affairs of men, but it's also giving men the responsibility. He gave Adam in the Garden of Eden to tend. And when there's no tending, when there's dilapidation, of course, and when there's abuse, a lot of unsavory experiences will result. As I was saying about the community and sustainable development, one of the goals of the SDGs, one of the goals towards protecting our environment is and one of the goals of environmental law is sustainable development. For example, in Yoruba, they will say that it's a very bad child that carries his father's house and sells it, and it's true. I remember a story in the Bible, Nathan. The king wanted him to sell because in Israel, everybody has inheritances. They have demarcations, delineations, and so Nathan, the guy. If I'm incorrect about the name, I'll edit this. Nathan was a man, just a very simple citizen of his nation in Israel, who, according to the Bible, who had a piece of land that he had inherited from his ancestors, but the king wanted it just for a vineyard. But it was their land, and it was the law that he shouldn't sell. So where am I going with this? Nathan respectfully told the king that he couldn't. It's something that they hand on to generations. If you read foreign novels, you read European novels, you would be familiar with the word a heirloom. Even under British monarchy and aristocracies, they have what they call a heirloom. For example, my brooch can be a heirloom where I pass it. If it's gold, a pearl, real pearls, and all of that, I could pass it down to generations, to my granddaughters, great granddaughters. So that's what the earth is. It's something that we pass on. For example, I'm concerned about my community in Nigeria because when I start having children, I'm concerned about the boy on the streets now who has nowhere to go, who's being what you call, a delinquent. I'm concerned about the kind of people my children will interact. Not because I'm a snob or something, but because, I can't say I'm preserving my children. Somebody said that if you don't take care of the poor, the poor will have nothing to eat than the children of the rich. So you might think, and there's a saying in Yoruba, there's a saying in my culture, and I believe that it extends to Africa and extends to the rest of the world, that if a rich man in the midst of many poor people is a poor person himself. So you find some areas where people just build beautiful houses, but the roads are really terrible all the same. So what I'm trying to say is that sustainable development is one of the goals of environmental protection, environmental laws, so that this earth will not be dilapidated. We're not just the ones that are using the earth. So, for example, when I see people throw things on the road, first of all, I ask myself a question. If you were in your house, I don't ask it out loud. I was so passionate one time, I wanted to be printing bills, handbills, to be giving people in the bus. Please maintain. But I just really thought about it that they'll still end up throwing these handbills recklessly on the road. Bills like we get what they call these things. We get tracts, and people. Even though I'm a Christian, I still, by the grace of God, to collect tracts. First of all, because I don't want to waste them. Secondly, because I'm still working on my salvation with fear and trembling. So what am I trying to say in all of this is that it's that serious. So I think to my within myself that when people are in their houses, do they just throw refuse on the floor? No, they don't. So these roads, I know some of in Lagos State, for example, they are pro cleaning. They clean some places, some major highways and all of that. Yes, but there's some places that they don't get cleaned, and you throw, and those dirt will come, and they're not biodegradable. They're not things that degrade and deplete naturally, that things that will just fizzle out. That's why the ocean, you go and find bottles, you go and find things, they're coming back, and the fish in the sea will eat all of those things. I really hope we get the point of environmental protection. Now the second, I think I've talked so much about it. One day I'd probably solely talk about it, but today I'm talking about environmental protection. I hope you're passionate to see why you should protect. So when you're in the bus and the driver is moving and you throw things on, whether it's your private vehicle or it's a public vehicle, and you throw things on the road, it's not right, because that thing will not degrade, it will not dissolve, it will remain there if nobody cleans it, and it will pile up. Have you ever seen I live in a local community. My parents' home, I grew up in a local community where we have sometimes when I because of my misophobia I told you about, forgive me. Sometimes when I'm walking on the road, I'm always doing as if this what they call this thing. I don't know, as if when we're younger, we had the square boxes where you leap over one, you enter one. Because I'm trying to avoid the dirt on the road. Forgive me, but we all have our weaknesses. That's my weakness. I have misophobia as my touchy point. So you find some dirt, like old nylons, dirty black, is it a black or white? They are ingrained into the soil because they were dirt that people cast on the road, and they will never be removed until we do environmental cleaning. And it's so serious that in law we have a law called the Harmful of Offences, Criminal Provisions Act. I'll get the right name and post it. It talks about, it criminalizes waste, indiscriminate waste distribution, when you just throw waste anyhow, indiscriminately, without regard. So all these things do matter, and I just hope we'll be passionate. How would you like if, with all the English and whatever I'm speaking, you come to my office or you come to my house and it's dirty? And yes, I can say it's my life. I want to live it the way I want to live it, but it still breaches the social contract theory we were talking about, to the ability for us to live peacefully, the ability for my decisions not to affect your health and all of that. And I really hope we do get it. And why law for me? Before I would go to trespass and nuisance, I'm saying it here so that I don't forget. Why law for me? I'm a Christian, quite alright, and I can't extract that from my conversations. Sometimes I look, but then it's who I am. Someone who, the Buddhist talks about Buddha, and nobody criticizes them. So a Buddhist lawyer can talk about Buddha, and it sounds fancy and it sounds cerebral, and people accept that. So my conversations as to Christ and is shaping us as Christians, does not diminish the quality of presentations on law and discussions and the practicability and reality of law and core issues that are on ground. So what was I saying about the Christian faith and all of that? The Christian faith, talks about doing unto others what you want others to do unto you, and all of that. And I was just, my Bible year plan. We have Bible year plan. I was reading about the Exodus, and I realized that there were a lot of laws that the Lord God put into existence. So back to what I was saying about, I believe in these times we're coming to a revival. We're coming to a point where men's souls are resuscitated to the consciousness of God. And one of the ways, it's not just going to be in churches, it's going to be in the hospital. As a doctor, you have a responsibility. What's the point of God? We're tripartite beings. We're body, spirit, and soul. And my body is what you're saying. My spirit is what I commune with God through, the means through where I commune with God. And my soul is the part that is relating to you now, talking about in my mind, talking about how I understand things and I'm trying to communicate them to you. So I believe that revival, what's the essence? If God speaks to my spirit man and it's not affected in the physical, there's no, even when God made the world, even though it's a spirit, it's a physical thing. So I believe that this revival that is coming will shape not just the church, will sensitize, and it will have effects on structures. So I do believe it's my responsibility under God, to talk about law in the event that, and for the outcome that society is positively changed. Wouldn't you like, to go, if I give you a free ticket and I give you, visa, everything done, to go to Dubai, to go to Hawaii, to go to Seychelles, to go to Maldives, to go to this fancy places, Paris, wouldn't you like to go there? You like to go there. If I give you somewhere to go to a dump site in Nigeria, what's there to see? So I really hope we can draw these things practically and see how they affect us. Really. So the law is not something aloof, it's something that relates to you. So very quickly, because of my time, I know it's 18 minutes 31 seconds already. I want to talk about trespass and nuisance. We know the word nuisance. We use it, colloquially. Actually, nuisance in law is under the civil aspect of law, civil realm of law. Nuisance is when you use and conduct your property and whatever it is that you're doing, and in a way that affects the others. I talked about social contract theory. For example, you could create nuisance through noise. Maybe your loudspeakers at home. Yes, it's your house, it's your speaker. Nobody's disputing that. But if it begins to affect somebody's sleep next door, that's nuisance. For example, you have a water pumping machine. It pumps water, and somebody is building maybe a cement factory, or they have cement on ground at the next building, and your water spills over. That's nuisance. So I think the theme of this discussion, however unplanned, is that we understand and we be our brother's keeper, and we protect the environment, and we act responsibly, because really there's no development. When you look at developed cities, they are rules abiding people. So you might say what she's saying every day about law, what she's saying about this and that. I remember a friend of mine, I'm so grateful, shout out to her, Okpayemi, she's at a foreign country. She told me when I sent, the link to the video about, traffic offenses, she said she's a brain herself, and she said something about she'd have to learn some things about law, and I'm sure she's talking about in a foreign country because she must have come across. So those countries over there, they abide by laws, and that's why they have. So it's not just their development and their infrastructure. If you have infrastructure today, the nicest and the loftiest buildings and all of that, beautiful skyscrapers, beautiful everything, beautiful recreational centers, free education, free everything, if there's no law in place to regulate the use of a relationship and our interactions with these things, abuse will happen and dilapidations and desecrations would occur. So I did say I was gonna run today, and I guess I fulfilled my promise. So really, this is Law, Lifestyle, and Basics. And yes, trespass is going beyond the limits of your land. Encroaching the land and property of another person, landed property of another person. So today, I just really hope that we'll live, you know, together in love, and responsibility. And that's why I like the Christian faith so much. It's really about it even talks about more of others than of ourselves, because that's when we can really have peace. If I care about myself, my family, and I don't care about others in Nigeria, and I'm like, okay, in this times, economic times, I'm doing well, that's fine. Oh, when I go on the streets, I'm gonna hear it. So let's live harmoniously and peacefully. This was Temitope, Law, Lifestyle, and Basics. Once again, the topic was about environmental protection, um, trespass and nuisance, and the general thing is to conduct ourselves responsibly in accordance with the social contract theory, so that we can have harmonious and peaceful existence in our respective communities. Do like, do share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.